This is the Championship Clubs podcast, the show that shines a light on English rugby's second flight. Join us every fortnight and check us out on the socials at Champ Clubs Pod on Instagram and Twitter.
Hello everybody, welcome to another episode of Championship Clubs podcast. My name is Jack Zorab, I'm the guest host today, and there are the regulars alongside me, and Ben Gulliver down in Devon, of course, one of them. Gully, how are you, mates? You doing all right?
Yeah, good, thanks, Jack. Thanks for dropping on. It's nice to keep us, me on my toes, really, because Mike's been obviously a mainstay of the show now from the get-go. We've had a couple of guest goes along the way. Mike's moved on to a new job now, so we wish him well. But we will be seeing Mike again on the podcast down the line. But it's great to have you on, Jack, and I know you were involved with the team of the year last year, so it's good to have you on board, mate. And welcome to the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Mike Casey. Is he in his first week of his new job? Regular face, regular host.
Yeah, Mike's landed a role with Man City, not directly, but he's sort of account managing a role there. I don't know the full details of it, but he's he's been a mainstay of Donny for 9 years and a big fan of the Champ. And now he's as a result of that, much like many of the players within the league, he's kicked on to a new challenge, and we wish him well, obviously.
Yeah, I'll do my best to make sure that he's going to be brought back by popular demand quickly to the podcast as soon as possible. Well, Gully, fantastic to have you on. Let's get down to business and review of the last rounds. 6 rounds in from the championship now. 3 points between the first 3 teams at the moment. So at least at the top, it's pretty close if you ignore some of the big points that have been scored by Ealing, I guess. But at this stage in the season, early though it is, good to see teams contesting at the top, even though Ealing, of course, look monstrous.
Yeah, it's I think because we're 2 weeks apart now on the pod. Over that 2 weeks, the league has shifted a little bit. I think the last time we were on, there was 2 or 3 points between top and second from bottom. Now the league's starting to take a little bit of shape, isn't it? And like you said, there's been some tight games. I think everyone's lost a game. I guess later on we'll talk about the tightness of the league shortly. But then there is the anomaly. There is Ealing in the league, and I've been in and around this league for nearly 20 years. I don't think I've seen a 100-point game ever. And I know with our team of the week, we could have picked 15 Ealing players quite comfortably, but we like to, there's good players in and around in the team. So that's why we share the love on that. And then obviously Bedford had a shocker the week before, and then they go down to Hartpury, who've been flying, and they stick 40 on Hartpury, which is a great result for Bedford. So yeah, fair play to them. Pirates chucked one on a Cov down at the Mene, and it seems after Pirates had that slip against Hartpury, it seems that they've come good. I think their injury list is looking a little bit better, so they're going great guns. And as we know, sort of Pirates away from home is tough, but once they get their straps on the road, they're going to be in and around the top 3 for sure, and along with Jersey, who picked up a good win at Richmond away. And obviously we've left a couple out there, so I'll leave you to intro the next bit.
Yeah, wise choice, I guess. Yeah, Ampthill against Doncaster, and that last minute Jack Spittle breakaway try, which I'm amazed didn't get try of the week this week. Of course, the Bedford Mafia voted in their try, but yeah, that ending quite something. But not if you were on the wrong side of it. And our guest today, sadly, Paul Turner, was on the wrong side of it. Paul, it is fantastic to have you on, and all your experience in the rugby world led to us this week. So thank you very much for joining us. But commiserations on that 18-20 last minute loss. Can you remember your reaction at the time?
Yeah, it was one of those slow car crash events. Really, it was. You could just see it all happening. And the week before, sort of similar, really, when we went over to Jersey, and pretty much unfancied going over there. They were on form, we weren't. We just copped one off Bedford, I think, the week before, and then this week as well. It was so 2 games, and as Gully's just mentioned, that the tightness of the league. This week we could have been third, and we'd probably head in for ninth. So we've left 5 points on the table. Definitely 2 out in Jersey, and then this one. It was pretty cruel actually because we didn't play particularly well, but at half time said to the boys, 18-3 up, we hadn't played well at all, and 18 points wasn't going to be enough to win the game. That was my words. And the last play, we've won a penalty, we've kicked to the corner, so we got over a bonus point, and we didn't get our drill right, and copped it the other end of the field, and that was it. Really, it was. We've all had them in our careers, whether it's a late win or a late defeat like that, but it wasn't very good, to be honest. There's a lot of boys that were terrible after the game, but we've got to put it aside. Actually, if you look at it positively, we're a semi-pro side, and we've pushed 2 fully pro sides in the last 2 weeks, so there's some good in it. It was just we couldn't quite get over the line.
Yeah, Tommy, it must be, and we've known each other for a long time, and I've copped, those last-minute losses with Ampthill and those last-minute wins. Sort of, in terms of your sort of development, or because we all develop as coaches, don't we? Like, how do you lift the boys up from those? Because the draw away in Jersey on the outside looks like a great result, but for you guys, it will look like a loss, or feel like a loss. And like how are you how you sort of preparing for the next crop of fixtures? And what was your initial reaction? Were you mad? Were you angry, or was it just deflation?
You go through certain periods in your career, Gully, where the different buzzwords become involved. My emotional intelligence on the weekend, you can well imagine what it was like. It wasn't good. And you reflect on those sort of things because we've got 2 weeks off now. That's the worst thing about it. We've got no game this week because we've got a bye, and then we've got a reserve week the following week. So we don't come back after it all happened for 3 weeks, which I don't know whether that's good or bad. So, we start back in 3 weeks' time against Richmond away, and then we got a full sort of 6 or 7 games, I think, up to the Christmas period, which will be pretty tough. But every side will be like that as well.
Paul, can I just ask about this? Is the right forum for this type of debate, I think. But we often hear coaches say 1 week at a time, 1 game at a time, and they make apologies for being so 1 game at a time. But if you are taking it 1 game at a time and you have a result like that, then understandably it ruins your week and really pisses you off, I imagine, until you get that chance to exercise it the next weekend, and you've got a break now. So it's gonna brew.
It works for some, Jack, and like, unfortunately it probably isn't working for us at the moment, but that's the way of the makeup of the season. There's only 11 clubs in our league, so there's always going to be one missing out on a bye weekend. I suppose with the season as well, we take into account of what goes on in the Premiership as well, because we get some loan boys from those clubs or whatever clubs in your area. We deal with like Saracens and Wasps at the moment. And then they go into a Premiership Cup after this week. So our side will change, as will a lot of other clubs, I would have thought. The size will change over those periods, some for good, some for bad, really. But it's a different kind of season. The season has come in after, what seemed like our last game, I think, was in June of that 10-game season that we had in the Championship, and you had to do your recruiting, lockdown and after, and then was the season on? Wasn't it on? And then all of a sudden now, we finished the season and started the season pretty quickly again, and with a new squad. So we're different. You wouldn't recognise us, Gully, from what we were in our years building up with all those promotions to get where we are. But even from the 10-game championship season that we went through with Saracens in our league, our personnel has changed rapidly, really. We're a new side trying to get things together. So those 5 points we dropped would have been brilliant if we could have been third now, because we'd have been third instead of Jersey. If we'd have won the game over there and then not faulted on the last play on the weekend.
Yeah, Tommy, you just mentioned, I was going to ask you about sort of how the squad looks and how it works up there now from when I was there. Sort of, I left in 2018, I think it was, and you guys leaned on the loan or the dual reg players from all around the Prem. Really, we had guys coming down from everywhere. Are you working with any in particular, or is it sort of, you mentioned Surrey? It's obviously Saints. You don't work with those guys anymore because Bedford have got that all sewn up. Where you've got your dual reg, and then obviously you've still got your likes of Lecky and Kev still trotting out for you. Like the bet recruitment's been a tricky one, because it's we've mentioned before, the Ampthill model is completely different, isn't it, to anything else within the league? It's just, I just wondered how you found challenges.
Well, it's different, Gully, because we dealt with Leicester before lockdown. We had the England fullback Freddie Stewart with us. We had Sam Costello, the fly half. Now we're probably definitely aligned with Saracens, and more aligned with Wasps now. So, but yeah, look, the one season that we had, our first season in the championship, where I think we came 6th or 7th or something like that. The funding was a lot better, so the funding's gone down now. So we're actually dealing with these clubs a lot more, and it's great having them, because there's the Premiership sides don't get a lot wrong with their academies these days. There's boys coming through, and the ones that we're having from all those clubs I mentioned are very good players. But with us, they make their mistakes and they learn, and and that's where you get, So, but we're indebted to these clubs where we loan these boys. You are right. The end years with you, I think we plastered you up for about 2 seasons, didn't we? And I can remember your debut. Over in Rouen, where you were just broken. It was the biggest pack. We went over to Rouen, and it was the biggest pack in France, the biggest pack I think I'd ever seen. And was that your debut?
Yeah, my debut, and I broke after.
Nice little pre-season, was it?
Oh, mate, it was. Tommy, we went out to Rouen and was thinking, this would be a great trip. And it was a great trip, don't get me wrong. But I'd come off, I'd had so many operations at Bedford, broken man. And we played, you kept me on for 70 minutes or 80. And I was done at 40.
I can remember you played a second team game on the Wednesday before, and I think something like that. It was, no, but look, I remember you saying to me 3 years later, look, I've had a great time with these boys, but the first couple of weeks I thought, have I done the right thing? Yeah. And, but we had some great times after that, didn't we? We had some promotions and some good wins against some famous old clubs. One of them being your old club, Coventry. I can remember that win at our place against Cov, which must have been mixed emotions for you.
Well, it was a little bit. It was because Dad was obviously team manager for Cov, and it's, I don't know. I said to when Alex Ray was on here about the rivalry between Cov and Ampthill, and I don't know what it is there, but obviously I loved getting one over on the old man and Coventry. It was a great day for the club, for Ampthill, and I think like for me, it's like you look at the story, and I look at like when you guys beat Pirates last year, and I dropped Lav a message, I dropped you a message, and I don't think people from the outside world realise how big that is for a club like Ampthill to go down there and get their first wins against these clubs. Because Tommy, it's come on a journey from pretty much nowhere, hasn't it? And it's now an English Championship club.
It's my 10th season now, and I think you've hit on a point there, Gully. I don't think clubs rate us or fancy us, because of where we've come from. And that's probably, if you can remember back, years ago when we were in like National 3 or National 2, some famous clubs who'd been up the leagues used to come to our place and they didn't know where we were from. They didn't know what they were driving into. And actually it was quite good because they were unprepared. And a lot of sides have gone off with the tails between their legs, haven't they? You know that. It's not a great place to come to if you haven't prepared. And obviously now sides know and they prepare well, and things have changed a little bit. But it's great. I think we're all proud of what we've tried to develop and what we've developed around the region. Our local derbies with Bedford have starting to become a little bit folklore, because of the crowds that turn up for these, Boxing Day. I think we had 5,500 with Bedford 2 years ago when we went there. Wow. So, it's different times and with different challenges, I suppose, now with everything happening.
Paul, what's a club like Ampthill? You've been all over the place, Harlequins, Newport Gwent Dragons, Rugby Lions, Bedford, of course, Sale, in your time. What's kept you at the club for 10 years? And maybe Gully, even more impressively, at the point you came at the club in your career after that start, what kept you at the club for 3 years? Because, what's the atmosphere like there that's different, if it is different to other clubs?
I'll start on that. It is different to other clubs. I mean, Tommy touched on it when I signed. I didn't want to go there. I'll be straight up, and I said that it was all I had was the contract from Ampthill, and things hadn't ended well for me at Bedford. It never ends well when you don't have your contract. But I was like, oh, where am I going? And Paul, we had coffee over in Costa in Ampthill, and then I started warming to it. And then Mark Lavery came to our house and met Georgie and me, and we had a long conversation and started to think, oh, actually, it was my naivety or maybe arrogance, misplaced arrogance about what the club was. And like Tommy said, my first game for Ampthill was for the second team, driving over there, hoping that there'd be some sort of roadworks to stop me from playing. But then within 10 minutes of playing, I'm like, and then you've got Mama Molatika, Aleki Latui, and all these guys on the sideline watching you go. I needed to sort my own shit out basically and sort of lose the arrogance and get fully involved with the club. And within sort of 2-3 months of being there, you can kind of feel that it's different. I liked its values. I like the fact that it's a little bit old school. It's got those old values, but you still go around on the pitch. I was the youngest player in the front five at one point at 36, and I enjoyed that side of it as well. So, but it's I don't know. It's all clubs are unique, but there is something for me. There's something special. I think it came at the right time in my career. I've got a lot of respect for Paul. Paul tried to sign me a few years back, and we've always had a conversation over text, and it was nice to work with Tommy and also Mark Lavery, and it was just a good place to be for me at that time. They welcomed in Georgie and the rest of my extended family, so it is a great club on that sense, and it's nice that we get to share the stories and get to chat to Tommy about it. But Tommy's journey is obviously that's just 3 years for me. I was just 3 years of Tommy's 10-year journey, and it started, didn't it, Tommy, a while ago with Billy Massey. Was he your first signing? Was he, or was it a bit later on?
Yeah, we were in. I think I'd finished the year I had the 6 years down at the Dragons, travelling back and forth to London, just from South Wales, and then I had a year at Wasps. So I think it was there last but 1 year at Wickham, and then Mark phoned me and just said, "Come and have a look at the place." And Stu Evans, the old Welsh prop, was at Ampthill with Clyde Griffiths at the time. And they were in national, I think it was London 1, it was, Gully. I think that's because Ampthill, because it's on the cusp of the Midlands or London, they used to sort of go out of one league into another. And it was the year they were in London 1, which I think is National League 3 now. And yeah, I'd finished at Wasps, and Lav came to the house and said, come and join us. We'd like you to come with us. But we're in National 3 Midlands next year. So, I was going to places that I've never been before. It was Syston, it was Leicester Lions, South Leicester, Sandbach, which I'd been 2 years before in my time up at Sale. And places, and very humbling. There were some great clubs along the way. We managed to win that league that year and go into National 2 South, which, again, famous clubs, your Redruths, your Cliftons, all those clubs that we never thought we'd play, really, and then obviously I think that year we got to a playoff final and lost in about the 107th minute in Darlington. That was probably one of the worst days of my rugby life again. And we grew up the following season and actually got promoted, beating Bishop Stortford at our place in a playoff, and went into National 1, 4 years in there, and then obviously got the promotion to the championship, where we've been ever since. So it's been a great journey. As I said, I'm really proud of the way the club has come on leaps and bounds, on and off the field. Even now there's still another challenge to take it even further, really, which would be to establish ourselves in this division. It hasn't been made any easier with what's gone on with the RFU and the funding issue, but we're still up there, and as I say, could have easily been third this week in the division rather than eighth.
Is it the club you've now been at the longest, Paul, in terms of coaching?
Yeah, I started coaching, I think, as a player coach in 1991 in Newport. I left in 92 to go to Sale. And I had 5/6 years there when, I was playing and coaching then at the time, but we went into the Premiership. I left to go to Bedford and had, I think, 3 seasons there, and we got into the Premiership then at that time. It didn't last long for Bedford, but Sale had been there and never left since. So, this sort of, my time at the Dragons was 6 years, but mainly as a head coach. I had 4 years at Quins actually in between that. And that was great times. And this 10 years definitely been the longest period. Feel I'm part of the furniture now, Jack, but you can never rest on your laurels, but it's been great. The intent of Mark Lavery, when I first talked to him, and nothing has changed since. We've always been the underdog, which, as I said earlier, it's starting to become a little bit besides we are these days. Gully mentioned Cornish Pirates earlier on, and we had a great win down there. I think we in the 10-game season, and it was probably the greatest win in the club's history. But we've got them in a couple of weeks' time at our place, and they surely will be different now from when we last played them, because they'll be well aware of what. Even with a new side we've got, they'll be well aware of what we can do. So, sides like Pirates and, as Gully mentioned, Ealing and Jersey are right at the top of our league. So they're sides that we need to compete with and hopefully beat.
That wasn't so long ago. Sorry, Gully. You go.
You go, mate. The internet's gone a little bit slow, isn't it?
There's pressure on this question now. All right. It wasn't so long ago that Ealing were similarly looking to establish themselves in the Championship. Is that do you know if Mark Lavery sees Ealing as a sort of club to, at least in terms of the model, similar to Ampthill at all?
It's Mike Gully, isn't it, that runs? He's the trail finder guy, isn't he? I think.
Yeah.
I think it takes a lot of money, really, to get where Ealing are at the moment, and obviously they benefited from their benefactor. And I think Gully mentioned they're the side to beat this year, within no shadow of a doubt. And you could well say it's probably between them and Pirates at the moment. Jersey and Bedford would have a lot to say about that. But you've only got to look at some of the results from the first sort of 6 games of the season that Ealing have been involved with, and you'll notice that. There'll be a very wide difference in the funding from Ealing to, say, the bottom club, London Scottish. And, we're one of those clubs that we don't work on much of a budget. It's good enough to be competitive, but you just got to look above us, and your neighbours, Bedford, would be working on a lot more than us. And ultimately, you look at the teams most weeks and their bench and in the 23-man squad, and there's some benches are probably more funded than my team, so it's going to be difficult. But I keep on saying we could be third now rather than 8th or 9th in the league. So sometimes it's not all about budget. If you can get your side playing, and we're new, so we're going to improve. And we need to stop getting those defeats in the last minute.
Tommy, I was just going to if we just lighten up a little bit about sort of, obviously you've had 10 years at the club, and I know personally some of the characters that have been through that rugby club. So one that sticks out is a guy called Johnny Morgan, whose nickname was Cat Piss, who's got a sign on the door. But there's I don't know if you're comfortable sharing with some of the characters you've had over the years that sort of stick out, and maybe a couple of tales from there that you can share, but not throw anyone too much under the bus.
Yeah, there's been some great trips with the Gully. It's it was a bit folklorish, but I think that's what made us. All our trips that we, I don't know, our northern trips were quite good, weren't they? I think the Johnny Morgan story was started in Exmouth. I think it was Exmouth, which turned out to be an international day, and we stayed in their club and watched an international, and then I think it was everybody stripped off or something in the club, and that was what happened. And then usually, which was similar to last year with the Cornish Pirates win, we left quite early, like it was an early kick-off in Cornish Pirates, and went out of Penzance with the sun shining, and we'd obviously won, so it was pretty euphoric. Got to the local spa or whatever it was, and I think by Taunton, most of the young boys were asleep. By the time we got to Taunton, most of the youngsters were gone. So we were
just for the they're gone because they're pissed, or just gone because they're tired.
Pissed, yeah. So, but that was our only journey last year, and we didn't, because of COVID and everything. We didn't travel, and we didn't. I think our longest game, we didn't go to Doncaster, and we didn't go. So that was our only bus trip, really. We didn't go to Jersey because it was all over by the time they came to us. So most of our trips were short. But the long bus trips, have been great. They call it, bonding and all that, but you can well imagine what some of those trips were like years ago. It's like the old Welsh trips, basically. And the old Welsh trips were just from one valley to another, or we now and again we go to Gloucester, or we go to Bristol, or we go to Coventry, but back in the day, the bus trips, some of them were Wednesday night trips as well, So they were great days really in the lead up to where we are now.
Yeah, Jack, just so for the listeners, it's I don't mind a beer, people know that, and there's 2 buses. There used to be 2 buses at Ampthill, so you'd have the magic bus that got you home nice and quickly, then you have the fun bus.
The magic bus and the fun bus.
2 buses. If you want to get home early from a away trip, you jump on the quick bus, no drinking, everything's you're good. Fun bus. You've got normally messes, Lavery down the front, and Tommy in the middle somewhere. And you just have a few beers. Dark Fruits used to be the tipple when I was there.
Say that again, sorry, Ben.
Dark Fruits was the
Fruits.
yeah. Everyone's drinking strong bay Dark Fruits. Don't know why. And as you can imagine, it was quite messy. No toilets on there, so it's proper old school sort of bus. Great fun, but it got to a stage, and this is the bit that sort of might shock a few people that know me, is that I was swerving that bus to go on the magic bus. that's how sort of loose it'd get sometimes, but it was it's fun memories. It's good that I know you have the big bus every now and again now, Tommy, and things have changed a little bit, but I think it's an important part of the game sometimes that those bus trips can happen, and I've got great memories of them.
It's changed for me actually, Gully. The other week, because I've obviously moved, I live up in the Midlands, and I live up in Stratford. So we went out to London a couple of weeks ago, and to London Scottish, and went on a pretty bleak Saturday. And I knew the boys were on the bus going back to Ampthill and straight after the game, so it would have been good. I just got in my car and drove up the M40, and I was just sulking all the way, all the way up. Something that's just new for me at the moment. So I've not been on the bus this season yet, which is quite sad, really.
I think there's a lot of Saracens players that are still gutting about missing out on proper away trips in the Championship last year. I think, for example, Maro Toje's visit to Doncaster consists of him having a view over Doncaster racecourse. That was about as exciting as it got, I think. I don't think that they, with the shortened season and everything else, they really missed out on that one.
Oh, mate, yeah, they had. I think I know they're what they call the Sarri supporters group, and I know a couple of those guys. They're proper gutted about missing out on some of those away trips, as well as the players. I think I've mentioned it before. It's not only good experience for supporters, but it's a great development tool for young players coming through. Like Tommy, we've had Ben Earl and Nick Azigwe, and you've had Will Evans. You've mentioned Stewart,
Alex Mitchell.
We had Alex Mitchell. All these guys that had a little dabble in it.
Fortunately, Gully, the window in the Pirates, we had 3 or 4 of the young Sarries boys, and they couldn't believe what a trip it was, especially when you win, isn't it? So apparently they were applauded in on the Monday at Sarries when they got back, and they sang a song. Apparently Sarries did, because obviously Sarries went down there and lost last season.
Yeah. So So who were those players, Paul? You had?
Who was with us was Wainwright, Crean, I think, Stonham, and Josh Hallett. Yeah, they were all with us that day, I think. And they experienced something that we had a big bus that day as well, Gully, a real big one. So they experienced something that some of our players don't experience. So it was one of those trips that just happened by chance, really.
And these guys, that they will remember these trips. I know. Who did I bump into? I bumped into Gabe. Gabriel that plays for Gabby that plays for Wasps.
He played for us. Yeah.
He played for us, and he and I bumped into him somewhere in a service station. It's like, all right, Gully, and it's nice for you as the older player that they recognise it, but they've experienced those days with us where it's very different to their day-to-day role, and it's a real key part, I think, of
we've just got George Thornton now. Gully just rejoined us from Glasgow, so he's just come back, and that was immediately. I think that's what tipped the scale. the fact. So where I live now is like about 5 miles from Wasps' new training ground, and I went in there 2 weeks ago, and Gabby was straight over. As you go in straight away. So I don't know whether it's the rugby or the bus trips, actually.
I think it might be the bus trips, mate, because George Thornton would have been on a and he's like, right, where do I sign?
Blow rugby's been good, Gully. Come on now, it's not all about the bus trip. You've got to win where you go, otherwise the bus trip isn't very good, is it?
It's shit for an hour, then it's after an hour, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Good times though, mate. Good
Oh,
times.
has it crossed both your minds actually? But some of the score lines from this season in the Premiership versus your match with Saracens last season at least, Ampthill 69. Actually, wrong way around. Sorry, Saracens 69, Ampthill 12. Bath this year, of course, 70, lost 71-17, and then recently as well, Wasps lost 56-15. I mean, to have Ampthill conceding less than Bath within 4 months of each other against Saracens, and Ampthill's match against Saracens was an away match to you. I mean, has that crossed your mind? How do you interpret that, and what do you say about the gulf between the two leagues when people talk about it?
It's a lot different, Jack, really, because I was a little bit like Gully actually when he said he drove that place that day he made his debut for Ampthill, the second team debut, and he was hoping that there was a traffic jam and he couldn't get to the ground. And it was the same when we went to Sarries on that Monday night back. Seemed 5 minutes ago, but I think it was the end of May. We copped it because I knew it was building up that they'd have all the British Lions back as well.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, Cornish Pirates did everyone in the division no favours at all when they beat Sarries on that first game, because it just sort of got them thinking, well, we can't afford to lose another game. So by the time our game came, I think it was game 6 or 7, they needed to beat us. So out came the British Lions that night. And it just happened to be, and we had to agree with it, the night of crowds as well. So I think there were so many allowed in that night. And it could have got really messy, but my players that night, I had to be proud of them, what they did, and we scored 2 tries against Sarries. And I know we copped it towards the end, but we were always going to get outclassed with the strength of their squad. So yeah, look, it's these fixtures recently with. I have thought of what you said, but no, there's still a huge gulf, and the gulf will be to do with finance really in the Premiership, and the best club in the Championship, as Sarries proved in the playoffs with Ealing. I think they beat them an aggregate of 100 and something, didn't they, in both those games? So that hasn't stopped Ealing recruiting since, and probably they're a lot stronger now. So I don't know, I suppose what you're getting at, if Ealing played Bath next week, who would win the game? In current situation, it'd be pretty tight. But Bath, you've only got to look at their injury list and the amount of world-class players they've got, then really it shouldn't be close, really, But that's rugby for you, I suppose.
Just in terms, Tommy, your experience before coming into the Championship, you've had, you've got Premiership experience, your role with the Welsh RFU. One of the questions I wanted to ask is sort of, the difference in pathways within sort of the Welsh pathway, potentially comparing to the English pathway. Where the strengths and weakness of both, and which model, where do you see the role? It's pretty loaded. I tend to do this, mate. Sorry. Like the role of the Championship long term, in your opinion, regardless of funding. Obviously, it's a big part, but in terms of pure player development, it's a pretty important cog, isn't it? For English, Scottish, or Welsh, it's a great tool for those players, isn't it, to be in it?
Yeah, I think it's different in Wales these days, obviously, since the advent of regional rugby, but that started in 2005. So it's a little bit different. What do I view? I've been through the Championship in different forms. Like I've been through the Championship in a form in the 90s where Sale got promoted. Bedford had to go through playoffs. We went through one playoff, I think, one year where we got beat by Bristol. Coventry got beat by London Irish, and then there was a playoff final. Yeah, you would have been at one of those games. Yeah.
Not playing.
Oh boy.
Oh boy.
Yeah. And yeah, sort of going on then. Yeah, we won it outright one year with Bedford. So all these championship sides, I think it's. I suppose what I'm getting at is there'll be major players. The 1 year we beat Newcastle, they had Tigamala, Rob Andrew, Tim Stimson, John Bentley, Doddy Weir, Nick Popplewell, all those sort of players in that division. Everybody at that time, and this Gully, we had sort of Ray Strowley or Fire, Paramore, Coventry signed some good players that year. So the championship was what it was at the time. Everybody wanted to get into the Premiership, and there wasn't a gulf. I didn't feel there was as much of a gulf there is. The gulf has been created, obviously, with the finance. You can't look away from that. But now we've come to a situation where, and everybody's doing it at the moment, you've got to understand how many England players have come through via the championship. I'm seeing a hell of a lot over the last 10 years. So if that isn't allowed to happen, I don't know where the development of the leagues under, because we just become, I suppose, underneath it just become community leagues, isn't it? Which is amateur. You've got to look at other countries. As I say, Wales is a little bit different. Ireland's always been provincial. Scotland have gone to there too, but they've got that Super Six going now, which will probably develop players for their top league. And then you go to France, which is completely different because the first three leagues in France are heavily funded, via the rugby union and the government, I suppose. So we're missing a trick, I think. If the league, if the championship is allowed to just drift, which it seems that way at the moment, we're missing a trick for the future of English rugby. It's as simple as that, really.
Yeah, it's something it's so valued and undervalued, isn't it? It's a weird one. It's just, but hopefully, sort of, the old review something will come out of it and something positive. It needs some positivity and positive news, which has happened a little bit more this season. So let's hope they get the funding bit sorted and also maybe potential sort of commercial opportunities within the league.
You're listening to the Championship Clubs podcast. Be sure to follow us on social media at Champ Clubs Pod on Instagram and Twitter.
We've got Will Maisey on the line now, Bedford Blues fly half and the creator of some big headlines over the weekend. Majestic Blues turn the tables down in Hartpury. Will, congratulations on the win at the weekend. Yourself playing a key part in the victory at the Al Pass Arena. Before we get into that, you're in your car. Where exactly are you? And you've been working this morning, is that right?
Yeah, I have. Yeah, had a few meetings this morning. I'm actually in Tame in Oxfordshire. Just a little Starbucks car park next to some horrible car wash, but this needs must, and it's got the essentials. It's got the coffee and it's got some snacks. Subway's around the corner, so
I'll be piling into Subway after this podcast. I see, Rob. And what was the work this morning? What's your profession outside of rugby?
So I am a marketing manager for a chiropractor in Tame. So yeah, I do all sorts of things from creating adverts, social media, just creating content for that. Do all like the Google Analytics, basic, just general marketing really for this chiropractor. And yeah, I really enjoy it.
Mate, that's really interesting because there's an opportunity for that with this podcast if you're keen, free of charge, of course.
Yeah, we can sort some out, for sure.
And then you can name yourself in Team of the Week every week, sponsored by your chiropractor team. Mate, it's good to have you on. Before we get into your sort of career, let's just rewind because Bedford have had a bit of a up and down year this year. But then you managed to turn it around at the weekend against Hartpury after a tough loss at home to Richmond. So, what was said in the week after Richmond, and how did you prep for the game down at Hartpury?
We're pretty disappointed with the result at Hartpury. At Richmond home, because we've been playing pretty well most of the season, and we didn't really put any shots off against Richmond. I mean, the set piece didn't function as well as we'd hoped, and yeah, we didn't really play to our strengths in that game. Fair play to Richmond, they caught us on the day, and they played really well. They deserved their win. Then this week, in the week, all we spoke about was just being a bit smarter, the way that we play. I mean, anyone who watched the game will see that we kicked actually quite a lot for Bedford Blues on the week, because it was quite windy. The conditions were pretty tough. So yeah, it's just about managing the games, playing the right areas, and just being a bit more clinical when we get our chances. And thankfully we did. We analysed a little bit of space in the backfield and found some space, found some grass, and thankfully it paid off.
Yeah, it must be nice sort of having Dino back there, and the back three at Bedford. Yeah, for you personally playing at fly half, you've got some real flyers out there to sort of, you get a bit of set piece ball. It's the Bedford way, isn't it? And you can just let them go. But you seem to have settled in a lot more this year, mate, and things are going well for you personally. Is that sort of something? Is that post COVID, or what do you put that down to?
I actually think last year for me was really good. I know it was only a short season, and that was quite frustrating, but it was good in the sense that I was still learning what the Bedford way really was, and like I'm all for playing this expansive game. I absolutely love it. I love chucking the ball about. Happy to play from anywhere, and that's what Bedford are. If the space is there, they'll back you 100%, and they won't judge you on that. And it gave me loads of license to basically just be a rugby player and not think about too much about structures, about finding opportunities in gaps and defences and stuff. And yeah, so last year I think it was great for me because I could learn without there being any real pressure. So yeah, for this year it seems to have done all right so far.
Yeah, it's interesting, mate, because if you look at your listening to you speak there, and you're playing sort of CV, and you started at Notts in the league. I think playing. Where were you before Notts? You were at Notts Uni or Loughborough Uni?
I was at Nottingham.
Yeah. So, and then you said played a bit in that one, and then sort of made your debut against Bedford, which I was playing, and I can remember you in that game, mate. I was like, "Who's this kid? Never seen him before." Streak of pit.
Yeah.
And,
still haven't grown in cast, unfortunately.
But yeah, just talk us a little bit about like the start of your journey within the league and professional rugby, sort of coming out of uni into it, and sort of how the journey's progressed and to where you are now, or little bits in between.
Yeah, so to begin with, I was at Notts Trent, like I mentioned, and Neil Fowkes was the head coach, who at the time was the forwards coach for Nottingham. And I had quite a good season for Notts Trent. We won our league in the end, which was like the second league in university leagues. And he said to me after the season, he was like, "Look, opportunity for you to come and train with Nottingham." It was just training to begin with. I'd actually signed for Leicester Lions, but they'd agreed that I was okay to go and train with Nottingham, and then had quite a good pre-season. I was a bit fortunate in the fact that Dan Mugford was actually injured at the time, so I was only and Rory Lynn was also come back from injury. So whilst I was training with Nottingham, I was pretty much the only 10. Managed to get a few games in pre-season, went well. Ended up beating the Leicester Tigers in pre-season. Had quite a good game in that game, and then yeah, they agreed that I play the first league game. Thankfully, went well in that one. Kicked my goals in that one, and we won. And then yeah, signed for the season after that, off the back of that one. So that's where it all began. Thankfully, Neil Fowkes gave me an opportunity to train, and just took my opportunity when it came.
It's we often say that it's a little bit of sliding doors moments, isn't it? Sometimes, but it's always you get the opportunity, but then it's down to you, the individual, isn't it, to knuckle down and get going. Fowkes is obviously a good coach. I've known Fowkes for a long time. He's a very good coach, and congratulations to him. Who was the head coach of Nottingham at the time, and who was sort of looking at Fowkes?
It was Martin Hyde was the head coach, and Ben Johnson was the backs coach. And yeah, they're both great. All coaches at the time it was my first professional gig, so I'd never been into like a coaching environment like it. So it's an eye opener for me, really. Like never really done any analysis in National One. I've just been told, right, this is where the space is, go and do this. So I just go and try and do it. And yeah, when I got into this environment, I sort of thrived in it because I could see more. It basically gained a better understanding of the game. So yeah, it helped massively.
When you put it like that, Will, it sounds like a straightforward step up from university. You got given a chance and you took it and you played. Did you feel like you were at the pace of the Championship right from the off then?
In a way, I guess I did, but I think it's because I was playing with so much freedom because it was sort of my only chance at that level. I had nothing to compare it with, so I just played the way that I play, and thankfully, at the time, it was going well, and I was listening to the coach's advice and taking it on board. And yeah, I was a bit quiet. I just listened to what they were telling me to do, and I was trying to put that into my own game. And I was developing, and thankfully, yeah, I guess, yeah, I got to speed pretty quick after the help with all the players and the coaches.
And then, sort of after Nottingham, that's when we sort of played together, wasn't it? So you came to Ampthill after that, wasn't it? And we've I see your face then, but it's things in people's rugby careers don't always go smoothly, do they? And it wasn't your most enjoyable time, I don't think, because I think that's fair to say as a player. But you sort of, that's part of life. And do you look back at that with sort of? How do you look back at that time at Ampthill? Obviously, didn't things go well on the field, but it must have helped with your development, sort of with other things.
To be honest, I mean, I didn't really enjoy my time there, mainly because I was playing at outside centre and on the wing, and positions that I knew very little about. And yeah, I didn't really get that run at 10. And also, Ampthill have their DNA.
Yeah.
It works for them. It wasn't the way that I want to play rugby, but they're so good at what they do. As you can see, they turn over teams all the time in the league. And what they do is works for them. For me, it wasn't how I wanted to play. As a 10, I wanted to control the game a bit differently, express myself a little bit differently to how Ampthill style of players. So for me, it didn't work as well as I'd hoped. But I did learn a lot because playing out on the wing, playing at 13, I didn't know what those guys do. I don't think I appreciated what they actually do, especially in defence and things like that. So that actually, in a way, it helped my game management a little bit because now I understand what these guys have to do, the work rate they're having to go through. Yeah, so it definitely helped me at stage. But at the time, I thought this is horrible. I don't want to be here anymore. Get me out.
I can vividly remember some of the conversations I had with you, and it was you were battling a little bit, but then you probably scored the best try of your career away at Loughborough, didn't you? And
you came on at half time on the wing.
Yeah,
the slowest winger in history, I think. But yeah, managed to dot down and then nail the conversion to win it. And I think Lavru's, I think he quite liked me after that one.
And then sort of Roland gives you the bell, doesn't he? And then you go on that great journey that that Coventry have, and that a big part of the story there from they're sort of in National One and not really knowing where they're going, and then Roland comes in and becomes a big juggernaut, and you go on that great sort of couple of seasons, get promoted into the champ. And how was all that for you?
Yeah, I mean that 4 years at Cov was so enjoyable. The season obviously we got promoted was just unbelievable. The lads that we had, the team we had for National One, I mean, that you saw, we kept most of that squad for the Championship and we competed pretty well. We had some unbelievable players like Sam Tutupo, like learning from guys like that. Just being able to watch him absolutely smoke people really 5 times a game was pretty enjoyable. Just seeing him out the corner of my eye, just going, all right, yours, I'll move to the next one. That was quite nice. But yeah, no, I loved my time there. Like working with Nick Walsh, he helped me a lot for my game. Got very close with him. Like we'd be on the phone a lot, talking about my game, talking about how I can improve. My things like game management, it definitely improved me that way. And actually, our style of play at Cov, we started off in National One, we're quite similar to Bedford in a way. Like we play from most areas of the pitch. So when we got promoted, we learned pretty quickly we might have to change that. So therefore, I had to change my mindset going into the games, going into the Championship. And yeah, so again, that is another massive learning block for me, and it helped me greatly.
Yeah, it's obviously we're Coventry. We're both from Coventry, aren't we? Well, you're Leamington.
Yeah, Royal Leamington Spa. Yeah.
We're from the posh bit, not so much. But obviously, talk a few of the characters at Cov. Then there was a few, wasn't there? You know, how did you get on with my old man? That's always a question I like to ask.
Got to ask that one in early.
He runs a pretty tight ship, by all. He couldn't manage me. That was the problem. That's why he was a tight ship.
No, I actually loved your old man. I absolutely loved him. I got a bit of a story from him. We went to Leinster in pre-season, and a few of us. It's quite a long story. I won't bore you with it, but we ended up going on that out in Leinster, in Dublin, and I got back about 5:30. Lost my phone, wallet, keys. Couldn't get to my room.
Strong.
So I banged on the first window I could find, try and let me in.
Oh,
Turns
no.
out to be your old man. So I won't tell you what he said because it's pretty X-rated. But he opens the window and goes, "Who's that? You like, what do you want?" So I was like, "Gully, I lost my keys." I was praying it wasn't going to be Gully. I was hoping it'd be anyone but any player, basically. Turns out it's your old man. So I wake him up middle of the night at 5 a.m. He's absolutely fuming. Throws me in, grabs me, throws me inside. Goes, "Right, get in." Obviously couldn't get to my room, so I was just sat outside, fell asleep outside, waiting for him to step over my feet in the morning. But he got me good the next day. I had to do a bit of a show and tell, and had to do a few dirty pints. He forced me to do it, unfortunately. But
Mate, I don't think I know my dad. Like, it's that's the one bloke you don't want to be knocking on the window door at.
Oh no, yeah, the fear in my face, I can't imagine what it looked like. But yeah, I was pretty frightened, to say the least.
He'll love getting a shout out as well. Cool. And then you sort of time at Coventry ends. That's pre-COVID, right? So sort of.
I was middle of the season actually. I had a bit of a conversation with Roland. My contract was running out. All the funding cuts were happening. Cov had already had 3 more 10s signed up for the next year. So it was sort of a bit unlucky at the time. The time wasn't great for me. My contract was running out. They had 10s already playing for next year. They were looking at next year as opposed to looking at the year they were playing already. So I wasn't getting many minutes.
Right.
So I basically asked, is there any way I can go and play some rugby? And at the time, I think Will Hooley went down injured for Bedford. And so they were looking for a 10. Worked out quite nicely in my favour, unfortunately for him, obviously, but got an opportunity at Bedford. Played the one game, Newcastle away. I mean, not a bad game to go and play. We got pumped, but night out was decent. And then the Tuesday after that, it was COVID. So I played one game, COVID hit, didn't get to finish the season off. So
Wow. It's crazy when you look back now, isn't it? You know?
Yeah. I mean, it's frightening because I played one game. I didn't know what my season would look like the next year because I didn't know if Bedford were going to keep hold of me. Fair play to Bedford, they properly looked after me. They gave me assurance I was going to get paid. They made sure that, they sorted me out big time, and I'm so thankful for it, to be honest. Because at COVID, I could have been not playing at all.
Yeah.
And obviously, this season, repaying that faith in many different ways. Will, does it matter to you personally? Do you enjoy the feeling of being top point scorer in the league? Is that important to you to kind of give you a confidence boost, or do you not need that?
I mean, obviously, it's nice. I really like it, and how long may it continue? I really hope it stays that way. But there's so many quality players in this league. I mean, even at Bedford, I'm competing with Luke Mulby, who's an unbelievable 10. I mean, Gully will know from playing with him at Ampthill and seeing him down there, and he can manage game really well. So I've got some really good competition at the club, and I've got really good competition in the league. So, I mean, I understand that there's going to be times where I might not play and Lou will play because the player he is and the quality we have in our squad. So, I mean, fingers crossed. If I keep playing, hopefully I'll just keep knocking the tally, keeping it ticking over. But it's not something I set as a target from the start of the season. But when you're there, you sort of think, I wouldn't mind staying here for the rest of the season. So,
sort of end of a match and the points are on offer, it becomes a bit more attractive than going to the corner.
Yeah, I do always say, 3 points on offer here, Lena, or what do you reckon? keep me ticking over. But unfortunately, with Bedford, we keep scoring out wide at the moment. It's a bit annoying. So when it starts getting windy, I might have to tell him to start running underneath the sticks.
When I was there, James Pritch would only kick the goals in between the 15s because we'd always score on the edge. So his kicking record was outstanding because he only kicked in the 15s and then he give the hard ones to someone else, mate. So that's just a little.
That's a good tip actually. I might start taking that one in. I think.
Sometimes I think we're a little bit. Sometimes we can be a little bit Bedford heavy on here, but I think there is always you've been around the league and understood other clubs. So I think it's okay to talk positively about them, and it's how have you settled into the way of the town, the life you're living in Bedford, the supporters, because it is a great place to play within the league, and even when I wasn't playing for them, playing at Bedford away was one you always look forward to. And then, how's it being a Bedford player compared to not being a Bedford player with other teams? What are your thoughts on that?
I've been, to be honest, this season especially, I've been getting so much love from the Bedford supporters. It's been mental, like getting loads of tweets, like messages, just after games. That's great. You go into the marquee, like how good's the marquee, by the way? Bit of live music and everyone's buzzing, especially after a win. And yeah, they're so good. They're really, really nice people. I haven't met anyone that I don't want to chat with at the moment at Bedford. It's just great. And yeah, they've been really welcoming all year. And it is different because when you go there and it's obviously the biggest crowd in the league at the moment. It's always nice to play at Goldington Road, but yeah, it's even nicer playing them as a Bedford player. So I used to quite enjoy playing at Goldington Road because the game's always good fun because it's quite open games and large crowds. But having large crowds behind you now is 10 times better. Absolutely loving it.
Yeah.
But to answer your question on where I'm living, I'm not actually living in Bedford at the moment. Just before COVID, whilst I'm still at Cov, actually, me and my missus bought a place in Milton Keynes.
Oh, okay.
She's from Milton Keynes, so that's why it wasn't too bad a commute. I was actually commuting to Cov with Fenner, so it worked out all right. So I bought that a month before COVID. So thankfully, don't have to travel too far now to Bedford, so it's even better. 20 minutes down the road.
Good to hear you sort of running down the road and enjoying life at Bedford. It is a special club, but there's lots of special clubs within the league which is good. It's good for us to be able to share those stories, I think, and it's a long way to continue.
Yeah, massively.
This weekend, Will, the big boys are in town. How much are you licking your lips at trying everything out against them?
Yeah, I mean, it's a great opportunity for us. Ealing, obviously, a fantastic side. You've seen what they've done the last 2 weeks. They've stacked loads of points on teams, and it's not a massive surprise. Like looking at their squad, they've got a great squad. But I mean, if we play to our strengths, who knows? I mean, we've got nothing to fear. We're going to play the Bedford way, and we'll give it 100%, and we'll see what happens. Last year, even in the COVID year, we didn't have our fans, and after an hour, I think we were ahead. So if we can get something similar to that with the crowd on our backs this time, who knows? We'll go there with no fear, and we'll give it our best.
Yeah, it's certainly an appealing matchup, isn't it? To go to Goldington Road this week. I know there's a lot of other rugby on this time of year, but yikes, that'll be such good fun to watch that.
Yeah, well, it'd be a belter, wouldn't it? And you think that Pirates turned them over, didn't they? And you think you can get a bit of parity up front, and can you relieve the backs? And it's you get one score in front, or you might get another, and you start chipping away at that lead, and anything can happen. And it'd be good for the league. It would be great for the league if Bedford could nick one and just tighten it up at the top again. And you draw yourselves back into that race as well, then, don't you? So I'm not putting any pressure on you, mate.
Yeah.
The rest of the league, could you just do a job with me?
Yeah. I mean, we'll do our absolute best, and I honestly believe if we start well, we stay in the game for a long period of time, I think we've got a great chance. But a lot will depend on us and how we start and how we manage the game. If you know what they're like, if they can get on top of you, then they're relentless and they're very hard to beat. So
yeah,
it'll be about us and fronting up, especially like you say up front, and being physical, because I mean there aren't many more physical sides than Ealing at the moment.
Yeah. Well, mate, all the best for it Saturday.
Yeah, absolutely. And one final question was just gonna, do you ever look at your opposite man and think, oh God, I'll be facing them this week. That'll be interesting. I want to look at their weaknesses. I mean, Stephen Shingler probably going to be the starter there for Ealing. That must be. Have you faced big names around the game? I'm sure you have. But Shingler, not an international, one of the almost internationals. He almost got there, I think, 10 years ago or so, but didn't quite happen for him. Yeah, he's obviously a decent player.
Yeah, him and Willis, they're both very good tens. Slightly different the way they play together. But yeah, I mean, I look at their game, I analyse them, I'll see what I can do to try and counteract their strengths. And the fact is they're both very good players. That's why they're at Ealing, and that's why they're doing so well this year. But again, a lot of it will come down to the big boys and how they front up. Because I think man to man, I think we've got a great chance, but it depends on who can get that front foot ball. Because like I say, Ealing wants to get that front foot ball. They've got great tens, Shingler and Willis, and they know how to play when they get to that front foot ball, and they do make it look very easy. So we're going to have to try and counter that with some physical defence, and then trying to be a little bit niggly, I think.
Love that, mate. Definitely. So yeah, mate. All the best Saturday. Thanks for coming on. Do you know, for me personally, it's great to see you.
Cheers, Will. Thanks a lot.
Yeah, it's great to see you doing well as well, mate. Like being sort of super confident in your game, because I know you had a bit of a tricky patch there. So all the best with it, mate, and good luck Saturday. Yeah,
appreciate it, lads, and congrats on what you're doing in the pod. It's great, loving it. So thanks a lot.
Cheers, Will.
Cheers, lads. Johnny. Cheers, Will.
Thank you.
That was the Championship Clubs podcast. Be sure to come back in a fortnight's time and follow us on social media at Champ Clubs Pod on Instagram and Twitter.